Welcome back, everyone, and welcome into this Fireside Chat, which is the strategies for attracting younger drivers. I am your host for this, Andrew Cox, and with me I have Sadie Church, who is very good at attracting young drivers. She's going to tell us all the strategies that she has deployed over the past few years to get younger people behind the seats. Sadie's here with us now. Sadie, can you give us a little elevator pitch on why we've asked you to explain these strategies of attracting young drivers?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So I grew up in trucking. It's an industry that I know and love and genuinely care about. Spent summers on the road with my dad when I was a kid, and I am now the vice president of marketing for CDLLIFE, and I am a former recruiting, retention, and marketing director for Riverside Transportation.
So let's get into it. Why is this such a big deal? Why are we having this conversation of attracting younger drivers to the industry?
Because such a large portion of our driver pool is aging out. A majority of our drivers are 55 years or older, and so we need to, in order to stay ahead of the driver shortage, we need to make sure that we're appealing to a younger generation of drivers, so that we have drivers to fill that gap when these drivers age out.
So we know it's important to get younger drivers because we have an aging population of drivers. As you said, the average age of a trucker is about 55. But I want to talk about this kind of disconnect between the respectability and the desirability of being a truck driver. So I got a stat here from ATA that says that 67% of Americans have a high regard for the industry and a high regard for truckers. But I feel like if we asked a question to young parents with young children whether they wanted their kids to be truck drivers when they got older, it would be a much lower percentage saying yes, that they would like that. Why do you think there's such a disconnect between desirability and respectability, and what can we do to kind of break those stereotypes?
I think we can do more by promoting positive things in trucking, showing the positive side of trucking. There's so many awesome videos out there of truck drivers, living great lives, making great money, exploring the country. I think there's such a focus on four-year degrees that, there's so many kids who go to college and then they come out, with tons of student loan debt, and then they still start in entry-level jobs. With trucking, what's so great about that is, it's very minimal training. They're not going to be saddled with student loans. They can go out and, get their CDL, and they can start making great money, travel the country, and, really do an honorable job.
So yeah, those are three major benefits, right? They can come out, they can make good money. You can come out as a driver making $60,000 or $70,000. You get an opportunity to see the country, which is something I wanted to talk to you about, because I believe you started a brand ambassador campaign while you were at Riverside, where you had a young lady that had never even seen the ocean, and you gave her the opportunity to drive a truck and make videos about it. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so in my experience, people trust people more than they trust corporations. And drivers, by and large, have a pretty large distrust of corporations. They've been, over the years, they've been lied to by recruiters. And so they just really don't trust what, people in suits are telling them, right? So my thought process was to create a brand ambassador. I had, and she was actually an employee in my recruiting department, really beautiful, blonde, intelligent, has an MBA, really smart woman, who had never really, she grew up in the same town, had never traveled, never experienced a lot of things. And she was just really ready to spread her wings. She talked to drivers every day, and she heard, how cool it was out on the road. And so she really got the itch. And she came to me and she was like, I really want to be a driver. And I said, okay. Well, I want to make you a brand ambassador because I think you'd be perfect. I would love to chronicle your experience, going through CDL school and just becoming a driver and seeing the country. And so that's what we did. I made her a brand ambassador. We got our pink Volvo truck, and we had her just really do daily videos and chronicle her journey of becoming a truck driver.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point you made it there at the very beginning, that people trust people, especially truck drivers. They are notoriously a distrusting group of people. Tell me how successful that group was. You told me that you had a pretty high number of new driver recruits just simply off of those YouTube videos she was making. Tell us about the success of the program.
Yeah, so how we set the brand ambassadors is we wanted them to tell their story of RTI in their words. We didn't tell Chelsea what she needed to say. I wanted her to tell what her experience was as a driver and as a truck driver for RTI. So we gave her a lot of freedom to just really take control of her page and spread the word. But, she averaged about 25 drivers a month just through her page coming onto RTI just because of her experience and her recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you get a good personality down there and let her be herself and just chronicle the true ways. I'm sure that there's a whole list of great videos out there. So let's talk. Let's shift gears a little bit, because you are on a specialty that have dealt both with recruiting and retention. And as you definitely know, and anybody that's done both, they are two way different horses. So let's talk a little bit about the differences between the retention process of retaining a 53-year-old driver versus the differences of retaining a 23-year-old driver. What are the special things you have to do to retain a younger person versus an older driver?
So I definitely think there's no one-size-fits-all for retention. And I think that there are a lot of tools out there that are very helpful, but I think we can't never underestimate the people element of retention. But some of the things we can do as carriers to retain younger drivers, Wi-Fi in trucks, putting things in trucks that a younger generation of drivers would prefer. For example, a lot of younger drivers that we were seeing are coming in, with they can only drive an automatic. So maybe you have options for, if you want to retain a 55-year-old driver, maybe you still have manual transmissions for those drivers, and maybe you have automatic transmissions for younger drivers. I think there are a lot of things that we can do to creature comforts in the trucks that would help retain younger drivers.
So Sadie, I got to ask about that 18-year-old Intra State Law, because I see that as an impediment, especially to going after recent high school grads. They have 3 years there where they can go and learn an HVAC or get a mechanic's license or do a lot of other things that doesn't get them behind the seat of a truck. Being 21, and then you can drive interstate and you can see the whole country. How big of a deal is it that 18-year-olds are only allowed to drive intrastate?
I think it's a really big deal. I think in those 3 years, so kids are choosing what they're going to do for their career path for the rest of their lives, typically, and we're losing that golden opportunity of getting drivers in the industry, getting younger generation into the industry.
So another thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this is something we had a call to discover a little bit about each other before this, and you talked about branding, and in this really stuck with me. You said that truckers are very smart people. They can sniff out BS from a mile away, and they see great equipment, great home time on the back of every truck, and that just doesn't really appeal to them anymore because they see it everywhere. So what are your thoughts on the best way to brand yourself as a trucking company, not only to attract younger drivers, but to attract drivers in general?
Branding is so important. I think it's probably the most important thing you can do in recruiting. As you said, every single ad, if you could go through, a trucking paper or a trucking website right now, and every single advertisement is going to say great equipment, great home time, great pay, we treat you like a family, all these cliches that drivers are just sick of, really. And the truth of it is, so many of the companies, if you go to 10 different companies, they're probably all going to have very similar equipment. They're probably going to have very similar pay packages. I think the only thing you can do is identify what sets you apart from other companies, what makes you different, what makes you unique, and really show the drivers that. Show them what good home time looks like. Show them what a good equipment looks like. And leverage your drivers for that. If you check on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, you're going to see videos of your drivers. Reach out to them, ask them, hey, I saw that you did this review of our equipment. I saw that you did this review of our home time. Can we use this in an ad? Allow your drivers to tell your story of your brand and what sets you apart from other trucking companies.
So I think one of those things that set apart certain companies from others is technology. And you mentioned there a moment ago about putting Wi-Fi into trucks or and some other things, maybe it's video games or whatever have you, about getting young drivers behind a truck of a very high-tech big rig. What are some of the other technologies that you have used to deploy and try to attract younger drivers? Is it simply Wi-Fi, or is there other things there that young drivers are excited about when they hear you tell them?
I think just anything we can do with technology in the truck. So TVs, satellite, tablets with streaming services available, Netflix, Hulu, things like that.
See, one of the big things that I think is a really big deal about getting younger drivers is getting those first career logistics people. Me, when I was in college, I had a lot of friends that were graduating from UTC here in Chattanooga, and they were going to work in logistics. And for some reason, me being the contrarian, trying to be different, I always looked at logistics and said, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go to a freight brokerage. I'm not going to work in logistics. And then here I am, first job out of college, started with FreightWaves, and now I'll likely be an industry, a lifelong logistics industry person. So do you think it's also important that, is that one of the also really big things about getting young drivers, is that being their first career and that they're getting their foot in the door that early?
Yeah, I definitely think that helps. And I think, as most truck drivers say, trucking is one of those things that gets in your blood. And once you once you're in the industry, it's hard to think about doing anything else.
All right, Sadie, I've got to ask, because when I look at the demographics of the trucking industry, I see that the average age is 55 years old. I see that there's only about 6% women, and I see that there's only about 40% minorities. So I have to ask, why are we so focused on going after younger drivers when that is proving to be pretty difficult, seeing as the average age hasn't really come down much in recent years? Why are we so focused on going after younger generations rather than going after women and minorities? Or should we go after all at the same time?
I definitely think we should go after all at the same time. And I think there are a lot of opportunities to do that. But I do think with technology, it's getting much easier to recruit younger drivers. If we leverage social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, we're going to have a better opportunity to reach younger drivers. But I do think that branding is really important. And depending on who you want to appeal to, you would just diversify your branding to appeal to that demographic.
You told me in our warm-up call that you had to meet them where they're at. Is that what you mean? Mm-hmm. Does social media, is that what you mean by that? Tell me about TikTok, especially, because it's seemingly that TikTok's always in the news now, but you mentioned TikTok as a great medium for truck drivers especially.
Yeah. So if you look on TikTok right now, you'll see that there are 252 million views of videos with the hashtag truck driver. And that's a younger generation on TikTok. So it's a great platform that's very untapped in the trucking industry to reach younger drivers. And there are lots of really cool videos by really young drivers who are doing great things to spread awareness about the trucking industry.
Jeez, 250 million views. I would have never guessed. So let's talk about another way that some people are getting into the door, meeting them where they're at, so to say. This is Tomorrow's Truckers. This is the ATA program that I know you're at least a little bit familiar with, and this is their attempt to plant as many seeds of the industry into high school students as possible by attending career days and speaking at schools. What do you think about this idea? Not just that program in particular, but do you think it's really important to get into schools even before they graduate to get in? And how do we do that? Should we pull up with a big rig and let them hop in, or what do you think is the best way to go about that?
Absolutely think it is. I think it's really important to teach the next generation about trucking, bring awareness to the industry. Show some of them probably have never even been inside of a truck, so they might be amazed to see refrigerators and flat screen TVs, things like that inside trucks. I definitely think it's a great idea.
No doubt. Well, Sadie, this has been a fantastic conversation. I know we've talked here, we've said branding. Let's recap here. Branding is the most important. Make sure to be honest and be real. And then, appealing to the younger people. Meet them where they're at, it seems. TikTok and those other modes are where you need to be. Well, Sadie, thank you so much for speaking with me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, and thanks for joining this Carrier Summit. Everyone stay tuned for the rest of the afternoon. We've got a lot in store for you. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.